Hi. So I went back just now to Psalm 68. I asked God where he wanted me to be in the Word this morning, and this is what came. I really treated this, I was rushing when I made the first videos, and I did not read carefully, and I was just kind of slopping through it, and I apologize. So here's a makeup for that. What was I going to say? In the lectionary, the grouping of readings for each Sunday of the church year, the psalm most of the time functions as a commentary on whatever the Old Testament reading is. Well, in the season of Easter, we don't have an Old Testament reading because we can't contain the gospel. For the 50 days and the 7 Sundays of the Easter season, we just let the gospel and the New Testament and the good news spill over into the whole lectionary. The Old Testament isn't replaced. It doesn't disappear. It's fulfilled. And so that's why the lectionary is designed like that for the 7 Sundays of Easter. So I was thinking about the Psalm. Is it maybe a commentary on the Acts passage, the first reading? And I think that it is. And I didn't ask myself that question the other day when I recorded the first video. So I think I had mentioned in verse 1, let God arise, let his enemies be scattered. Obviously, that's what happened to the disciples during the passion of Jesus. They all went their separate ways, and none of them was with him. But in his high priestly prayer in John 14 through 17, and particularly in John 17, verses 21 and 22, Jesus prays that his followers would all be one, as he and the Father are one. And so here we see that he wants that unity for us. He wants us to be united in purpose. And I think I had mentioned that that's kind of what Peter was exhorting the people to in the beginning of Acts in his first sermon. Come together, continue in the apostles' teaching and fellowship, in the breaking of the bread, and in the prayers. We're supposed to be united. It's his enemies who are scattered and everywhere all the time. And let those who hate him flee before him. So the Acts passage for the 7th Sunday of Easter, Judas kind of goes his own way, right? He was wicked. He was kind of out of step with the disciples the whole time. He was stealing from the common purse. In his heart, he makes this plan to betray Jesus, not only to the chief priests and teachers of the law, but also to Rome. They're supposed to hate Rome, but Judas had he was under the influence of Satan. He was doing the work of Satan. He allowed Satan to devour him. I think that's the idea that the lectionary putters togetherers had, giving us Psalm 68 for this reading from Acts. Judas was part of the enemies that got scattered. He wasn't aligned with Jesus. And I had mentioned, Peter messed it up a lot too, but Peter's heart was with Jesus. I think there's a lot of evidence that Judas's just wasn't. And yet, and this is what is absolutely mind-blowing to me, and yet, Jesus knew that. From before the foundations of the world, he would have known exactly who Judas was and exactly what Judas was going to do. And he still picked him. Judas got to spend 3 whole years tramping around with Jesus and the disciples in the inner circle. God can use whoever he wants. And it can give us some comfort that if we are in a place of hard-heartedness, if we are in even a very, very long season of unwillingness to surrender to the love that Jesus is extending to us, he doesn't push us away. We can always choose to walk off and to let ourselves be scattered as Christ's enemies. But he does not push us away. And so I think there's some comfort and there's some reassurance in that. Let those who hate him flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melts before the fire, so let the wicked perish before God. I was thinking of Psalm 1 this morning as I was looking again at this. It says, the wicked, it talks about how the righteous are firmly planted. They're like a tree by streams of water. They have all the nourishment that they need. The tree goes big. It yields its fruit in due season. And then Psalm 1 switches and it says, with the wicked, it's not so. They're like chaff, which the wind blows away. They scatter. They flee. Like smoke that drives away. Like I'm having trouble with that this morning. Wax that melts before the fire. The time of the wicked is limited. Satan's time is limited. Satan's power sure is limited. So this gives us a little bit of hope. The flip then, verse 3, let the righteous be glad. The wicked are here present. We see it. We experience it. We know it. And we can still be glad. Let them exult before God. Yes, let them rejoice with gladness. Our joy does not depend on our circumstances. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit, which means it is given. And so we have this as a gift because we are followers, because we are the righteous, not because we're without sin, but because we continue to follow along with Jesus, despite the fact that we do continue to sin and we do continue to screw it up and we do harbor wickedness in our heart and we do turn away for seasons. He continues to be faithful to us. He wants us to be unified to each other and to him. And it's his Spirit that accomplishes all of that. Verse 4, sing to God. Sing praises to his name. He puts this song in our hearts. It is from him. And all we have to do is ask and continue and seek. Cast up a highway for him who rides through the deserts. I was thinking there of Isaiah 40. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. It's a prophecy that Isaiah had. First about John the Baptist, that John the Baptist is going to prepare the way for Jesus, and then Jesus is going to straighten out everything. Everything will eventually be made all right. We had that promise for his first coming, and we definitely have that promise, which is yet to be fulfilled in his second coming. All things will be made new. There's going to be a highway in the desert. The rough places are going to be made plain. The crooked is going to be straightened out. This psalm is also a prophecy for that. Then verses 5 and 6 here, it says, God is a father of the fatherless. He's a judge for the widows. God in his holy habitation. He leads out the prisoners into prosperity. There's three groups of people here: the fatherless, the widows, and the prisoners. In the middle of that, it says God makes a home for the lonely. People without fathers, people from broken relationships, from broken homes, from malintent of, you know what I'm getting at. These are vulnerable groups. Those who don't have a father, those who don't have a spouse, those who have been deprived unjustly of their freedom. So many times we see people claiming to be victims or vulnerable groups. We see this all the time. You can't take away my government benefits. I'm a vulnerable person. And that's false. They want everything for nothing. And this is not what Psalm 68 is talking about. This is talking about the people who are truly legitimately without ways to provide for themselves. And there's a difference. God makes a home for them, and he is the home, God in his holy habitation. We'll see how that plays out here in just another minute. Then the end of verse 6, only the rebellious dwell in a parched land. That is clearly not true. It's the psalmist's hope. It's a cry, God, please deal with the wicked people. We sometimes dwell in a parched land, not only literally, but also spiritually. Sometimes we feel like, oh, where is God? And why is my spirit so desperate? Why do I hurt so bad? Why don't I have what I feel like I need? Why can't I hear God? Why isn't he transforming the things now that are problematic? So obviously the righteous also sometimes dwell in a parched land. We're going to come back to that in a minute too. Hang on. And then at verse 7, there's kind of a switch. The psalmist starts praying directly to God instead of like exhorting us. He changes the direction of his prayer. O God, when thou didst go forth before thy people, when thou didst march through the wilderness, the earth quaked. He's reminding God of what happened after the Exodus, after the Hebrew people were led through the Red Sea, and God led them as a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. He's saying, you were present. You were there. You were with us. You led us. We didn't have to figure it out for ourselves. We could see you. And what happened? There were literal earthquakes. The mountains trembled. But the heavens also dropped rain at the presence of God. They're in the wilderness. This would have been extremely unlikely, right? Why is it a wilderness? Because there's no rain. But who was there? The presence of God, the literal, seeable, knowable, actual presence of God was with them. And so that's what made things unusual. There was a flip of the circumstances. And it was the presence of God that accomplished everything that they needed. His presence delivered their provision. And it does for us today too. Why? Because of the giving of the Spirit. We're reading the readings for Easter 7. We're right on the heels of the giving of the Holy Spirit in Pentecost. His presence delivers what we need, our provision, because he gave the Spirit. We have that right now in our hearts. We don't have a pillar of cloud, but we have something that is even better. This is what the disciples couldn't understand or wrap their minds around on the night before Jesus died. He's like, I'm going away. And they're devastated and they're brokenhearted because they wanted everything. They wanted him to stay with them. And he said, no, you don't understand. I'm going to give you something that's even better. And they thought, how can anything be better than your physical, seeable, touchable presence? And he's like, you don't get it yet. The Spirit is going to live in you. That is better. And I think we have a hard time wrapping our minds around this too. We're like, Jesus, why aren't you here? Why don't you come back? Why don't you fix this? And Jesus says, I already am. So we need to pray that our eyes will be opened and our hearts expanded to rejoice, to sing with joy, to exult, because he is. We can't see it with our physical eyes, but his Spirit in our hearts is even better if we will continue in the apostles' teaching and fellowship, if we will ask him to show us, what does this mean? How is this better? I don't get it, God. Teach me something new. Remind me of what you've already said. Open me bigger so that I can receive this promise from you. We get to verse 9. Thou didst shed abroad a plentiful rain, O God, in the wilderness. There's no plentiful rain in the wilderness. That's why it's the wilderness. But his presence did things that were unaccountable, and he does that for us yet today too. And then here we get to the end of verse 9. Thou didst confirm thy inheritance when it was parched. Who also is in a parched land? Us. Verse 9 is the answer to verse 6. The psalmist wants the wicked to be in a parched land, and they are. They are without his presence. They get scattered. They melt away like wax. They burst open like Judas in a field who Jesus did not cast away. Judas just came to the completion of the own direction of his heart. We get confirmed as his inheritance because Spirit hangs on to us. None who come to the Father are lost because the Spirit hangs on to us. Verse 10, the creatures settled in it, in the land, in the parched area, and thou didst provide in thy goodness for the poor, O God. We looked in, I think it was Easter 6, maybe it was before that. Widows were getting ignored. The people who the lonely, these three categories, the fatherless, the widows, and those who had been unjustly persecuted, were going without. And the apostles were saying, you need to appoint people to deal with this. How does he provide for the poor? With us, with the church. The people who have needs, get thee to the Eucharist. Come be part of a believing body. Continue in the apostles' teaching and fellowship, in the breaking of the bread and in the prayers. Let us be the body of Christ and be the provision for those who can't. Our church deals with this a lot. We're right across the street from a gas station, and we get people at the door all the time saying, hey, my car broke down over there. Can I have $50 for gas? Or, we have a lot of people coming to us. And there are times when the pastors will say, yeah, here's $25, or here, show me where your car is. I'll go and put gas in it. And that weeds out those then who are just lying and trying to get something from us. But we're like, hey, our service is at 10:15 on Sunday. Let's sit down and tell us about yourself. And people don't want to do that. They want something for nothing. And the answer is to be part of a body. The greater need is for love and for relationship and for connection in the Spirit to the provider of all things. So sometimes, we'll give a gas gift card, or we'll ask, show me where your car is. I'll go pump some gas for you. But the greater need is for connection in the Spirit. I missed all of this in Psalm 68 on my first pass. So I hope this is helpful to go back and connect it not only to the other readings for Easter 7, but also for our hearts to have something to think about and hold on to in the rest of this week as we walk up to Easter 7.